welcome back to Final Fantasy XIV. Yeah, once more back in the Rising Stones after finishing the Keeper of the Lake, and now it's time to report to Alphinaud, but Andrew, have you something to say? Truth interpreted is truth transformed. Today's heroes may yet become tomorrow's gods. Or something else. True enough, I suppose. Praise for 12, your hail and hole. I came as soon as Mephilia informed me of Sir Emmeric's request. You have completed your investigation of the Keeper of the Lake, I take it? Then I would hear your report. So, yeah, the dragon was in fact not dead. You conversed with Midgardsormr? I swear, were anyone else to make such a claim, I would regard it with considerable skepticism. Are we to understand that the Wormlord did not perish and has in sooth lain dormant these past 15 years? Less a resurrection, more a rejuvenation for he who dwelleth in eternity, years passing as moments. Though his words were ambiguous at times, one statement left little room for interpretation. My people have heard the song. Ishgard shall burn. Clearly an attack is imminent. We must share this information with Sir Emmeric immediately. However, we dare not divulge your conversation with Midgardsormr in its entirety. To even acknowledge that you heard the voice of the Ravani is a grave, but necessary risk, lest we forget men have been executed as heretics for declaring as such. For your own protection, and for the sake of our tenuous relationship with Ishgard, the truth cannot leave this room. As for how we shall present our revelation to Sir Emmeric's emissary, you may leave that to me. Pray remain here for now. Is there something you're not telling us, Sirius? You seem different somehow. It is almost as if you're missing something. Something important. Yeah, Midgardsormr somehow cut me off from the blessing of light. 12 for Fent, Midgardsormr stripped you of a blessing of light? Are you alright? How do you feel? I see. It's a relief to hear that you are otherwise unharmed. It beggars belief that any being could possess the power to deprive you of her blessing. Midgardsormr made mention of a covenant, did he not? One of the ancient myths regarding Silvertear Falls states that when the waters came into existence, so too did the Great Worm. Altic and Nemea, brother Time and sister Fate, decreed that Midgardsormr ever watch over the source from which all water and magic was said to flow. I wonder, what if this was the covenant of which he spoke, and it was not the gods with whom he tweeted, but Hydaelyn herself? Well, if he's watching over you as he claimed, perhaps you will have an opportunity to ask. Let us keep this matter to ourselves. I do not wish to burden our friends needlessly. So? Art thou a pawn, or master of thy fate? What hast thou wrought by thine own hands, mortal?
My friend, I can scarce believe it. You confronted the Wormlord and lived to tell the tale. I give thanks to Helone for your preservation. It is our sole cause for gladness. Your encounter with the Keeper of the Lake served to confirm our fears. A great worm has roared, and it makes little difference if it was one of the two in Eorzea or any other. The Dravanians are coming.
I am told that Ishgard has magical defenses against Dravanian attack, though I am not privy to their exact nature. Will they be enough to repel a massive force?
Ishgard has weathered countless assaults over centuries. This will be no different. And now that you have confirmed the threat, none can ignore the Lord Commander's calls for the wards to be strengthened. I dare not presume to speak for him, but I expect the Lord Commander would sing your praises. I must away, but we shall meet again soon.
Countless assaults weathered, and this will be no different? Why am I not convinced?
Because that would simply be too easy, Alphinaud. And we wouldn't need a hero to box them out of them. We Ishgardians have warred with the Dravanians for centuries, nay, nearly 1,000 years. In all that time, not once have the enemies breached their defenses and entered the city proper. Yet, regardless of how strong these magical wards may be, I nevertheless fear that the Ishgardians are underestimating the gravity of the situation. Though it was not Midgardsormr who roared, a call to arms by one of the first brood cannot be ignored. Until such time as they choose to request our aid, however, we can do naught but observe the situation at a distance, and pray that our fears are unfounded. I forget, I believe Moenbryda has requested a gathering of Ascians. I assume there has been some progress concerning our efforts to combat the Ascians. Pray inform her that our business with the Ishgardians is concluded for the moment. I shall be along once I have completed my communications with those crystal braves. Such statuesque beauty and possessed of a mind for research to match her belly full hard liquor. What does a woman of so many charms see in musty old Urianje? Moenbryda here? I'm telling you, Frankrit, keep pestering Moenbryda and the only thing you'll become intimate with is her axe. I must confess the relationship between those crystal formations and the Ascians escapes me. Professor Lamberton has published a thorough study on corrupted crystals and their properties. I highly recommend you procure yourself a copy of his work. Professor Lamberton, I remember, I used his help to gather corrupted crystals. Maybe that helped? All done with your talk of dragons? Wonderful, because Ascians are next on the menu. Let's head into the solar, shall we?
Now that everything's calmed down a bit, relatively speaking I mean, I thought it might be a good time to share our progress on the weapon. I believe we're on the verge of a breakthrough.
Well, don't keep us all in suspense.
Just in case anyone's forgotten, let's start by reviewing what we already know. So, an Ascian is an immortal because its soul doesn't return to the ethereal realm when its host is defeated. Instead, it flees to the place that lies between our world and the void. Therefore, the first step to permanently defeating an Ascian is preventing its soul from making this journey. And if you recall, when we last gathered here, I had verified that white auracite has adequate capacity to entrap the beings, albeit only briefly.
Okay.
Which left the small matter of their extermination.
Aye. To unmake an Ascian soul, one must needs smite it with a concentrated burst, or blade, of purest ether. However, we wanted for both the data and the means to forge such a weapon.
Short of experimenting on an actual Ascian, you see, there's no way to gauge how much ether its soul is made of. As such, we don't know what etheric density our blade needs to have in order for it to work.
So we'll just have to make the densest blade we can and hope for the best. Though that would require a lot of ether. Hang on a minute. Why didn't we think of this before? White auracite can hold an absolute heap of ether, can't it?
We had that before, Ida.
Please tell me you're joking. God's sakes, Ida. I feel as though I'm reliving the same scene over and over with you. How many times do you need to be told that white auracite cannot store ether for long periods? Being intangible matter, ether is given to dispersion. Only in its crystallized form is it a stable source of energy. I will test you later on this, so see to it you do not forget.
Right, yes. It's all coming back to me.
So our hopes rest on good old crystals again, do they? While they are certainly reliable, they leave something to be desired in the area of portability.
True enough.
Indeed. I am reminded of the quantity of corrupted crystals required to thwart Leviathan, and the extraordinary lengths to which the Lamentsons went to transport them. What if it should prove that a similar quantity was needed to destroy an Ascian's soul? Or still more?
I do not envy the poor sod who has to lug all of that around, on the off chance that an Ascian appears.
That's the very problem we set out to solve. And I reckon we've found the answer. If it isn't practical to lug around the ether we need, we'll just have to draw upon another source. And the only viable source is the land.
If you mean to tap the Great River of Ether, know that it will entail considerable risk. Meddling with the currents may well induce a surge like to the one which despoiled Mordona.
Give me a bit more credit, will you? Why would we need to tap the river when there are veritable reservoirs jutting out all over the land? Aye, I speak of corrupted crystals. It might be that their aspect is out of balance, but a crystal's a crystal. It contains ether, and we can help ourselves to it.
While corrupted crystals are indeed abundant, there is no guarantee that they will be in close proximity at a crucial moment.
But what if we don't need them to be? What if we could tap their power from afar? A malm away, say? If we could do that, we'd have ready access to ether aplenty in almost every corner of Eorzea. I've yet to put my theories to the proof, but I've got a good feeling about this. If no one has any objections, I'd like to see where this avenue leads.
If you think it worth your while, you have my blessing.
So gathering the energy from further away to you. Let's just hope that doesn't take so long. If you know Dragon Ball Z, there was the Spirit Bomb attack of Son Goku's, but gathered energy from all around, from the life around you, right? But it took forever because the energy needed to gather. So we can't just stand there facing off against an Ascian for 10 minutes or so. This has to be quick.
But tell us, what are your theories? I, for one, am most eager to understand the process, however vaguely.
I thought you might say that. But no one wants to listen to boring old theories all day, do they? I know I don't. So with your permission, I'd like to try something a bit more hands-on. I've already built an etheric siphon especially for this purpose, and I've been meaning to try it out. Thing is, the profusion of corrupted crystals in Mordona makes it something of a high-risk testing ground. If anything goes awry with the siphon, it would be better if it didn't happen within spitting distance of quite so much ether.
So in case this thing is a bomb, it shouldn't have too much charge.
Ideally, I need an isolated specimen. Does anyone know where I can find one?
May I suggest Northern Thanalan? There you will find corrupted crystals of middling size, standing a reasonable distance apart. Ideal for your needs, I should have thought. Oh, and if you do elect to visit the place, I should be much obliged if you would assist me in another matter while you are in the area.
Alphinaud having a perfect entrance makes you wonder if he stood in front of a door waiting for the perfect moment to enter.
Has something happened?
Movement has been observed at Castrum Meridianum. During Operation Archon, the Alliance dealt the stronghold a heavy blow. Its facilities were extensively damaged, and its garrison reduced to a fraction of its former strength. Not long after our forces withdrew, however, their ranks were replenished by reinforcements from Castrum's sentry. They now seek to rebuild, and to this end they have their sights set upon the ceruleum processing plant. Having lost the Empire's support, the 14th Legion lacks the resources to sustain itself. To them, this is a bid for survival, and they will doubtless fight like desperate men. Though I have dispatched the Crystal Braves, I fear their strength alone may not suffice to stay the Imperial assault. I would request the Scion's aid in the defensive effort.
Alright.
If I didn't know better, I'd say you were trying to inveigle us into fighting your battle with the promise of shiny crystals. Well then, consider me inveigled. I won't lie, the crystals you speak of sound perfect, so the Garleans have to go. Besides, we can't afford to beat about the bush. There's no telling when the Ascians will next appear.
Thine eagerness to hurl thyself into the jaws of danger cometh as little surprise. Exercise due caution, I prithee.
Though you have become a crystal brave, you are yet a scion, Alphinaud. We could hardly refuse you. Pray, join the crystal braves and lend them your support. Thangred and Papalymo shall accompany you. Ida and Y'shtola, in the meantime I would have you assist Moenbryda. Scout out the crystal clusters, that the testing may commence as soon as the Garlean threat has been eliminated.
If it please you, I shall continue mine own experiments on white aurosite.
Thank you, Urianger. Everyone, pray see to your preparations and depart as soon as you're able. Go well, and be safe.
Okay, Northern Thanalan. No, wait, speak with Alphinaud first. That would have been annoying. It would seem that the Ents have once more conspired to rob us of rest and recuperation. Though I should wish it otherwise, I must ask that you head straight to the processing plant. The Fourth have already deployed to the area and await the arrival of the Ascians. Wilbert will brief you on the developing situation. Meanwhile, I must rendezvous with Captain Ilbert at our headquarters in Ul'dah. I shall take command of our forces there with a lighter heart, knowing that you go to support the front lines. Your duties take you to Northern Thanalan, do they not? We too must say our farewells to the Rising Stones for a time. Flaming travels to Ul'dah, and we shall serve as her escort. At my daughter's behest, I go to contact certain old acquaintances in the Gilded City. We are beset on all sides by civil unrest and imperial machinations, threatened by primals and troubled by dragons. We need all the allies we can muster. Many of my friends hold positions of power, you see, and it's my hope that they can be convinced to aid the Scions' cause. If past events have taught us anything, then we know that Eorzea must present a united front, or we shall fall. Ah, how extraordinary that my little Ascilia is involved in such a far-reaching affair. I'm proud that I now stand at her side, not only as a mother, but also as a colleague. A colleague with influential connections. I fear that Ul'dah has become a place of danger, even for one so familiar with her streets. Ha! Woe betide the blackguard that so much as glares in your direction, milady. Roar! I shall be well protected, it seems. Shall we be on our way then? Good luck. Okay, no one found. Little Red, where are you? Back there. Commander Leveilleur sent word you'd be coming. A veteran of your talents is most welcome. Not that I don't think we can handle the situation, mind you. I've learned a trick or two since the disaster of Yamalja. But returning to the task at hand. The Flames reconnaissance scouts have reported Imperial soldiers assembling at Rauban's Push. Such a force is likely interested in only one thing, getting their hands on the resources found here at the processing plant. The Garleans could begin marching on us at any time, and I think it's time we speak with Lieutenant Edelstein to finalize our counter-strategy. Sergeant Sharplate. My soldiers yet tell tales of their deeds during Operation Archon. Would that we could sit a while and reminisce about old times. Are the Garleans on the move then? Not as such. The civilian draughtsmen have, however, come across several highly suspicious crates within the boundaries of a processing plant. I had my sappers take a closer look, and our worst fears were confirmed. These boxes contain powerful explosive devices. Devices of Imperial design, no less. Found inside the plant, you say? But how? We had our guard station around the perimeter day and night. Tis likely the plant was infiltrated long before the Braves arrived. Master Fencrit, have the Scions come in force then? All who could be spared, yes. Now, there are likely more of these Imperial explosives about the place, so I suggest we spread out and conduct a thorough sweep of the compound. Considering the volatile nature of ceruleum, allowing even one such device to escape our search may lead to us enjoying an uncomfortably close view of a rather spectacular explosion. Right then. I'll pass the word to the fourth. What exactly should we do with these crates? Should we find them? Bring them here to me. Carefully, mind you. My sappers will render the devices harmless, as they did with the first batch we found. Very well. Let's get started, shall we? Okay. I remember this quest being terribly annoying, and I spent probably 40 minutes on a search that should take 10 at most. There's a inconspicuously suspicious item. done some exploring, located the perfect place where I might conduct my experiment. Pity then that we must deal with this Garlean nonsense before I can begin testing my theories. And the fourth is mean. The fourth is up there. There's only one way up there. Up this ladder here. Finding that thing took a while the first time. Here are the items. There are 4 more of those blasted things. I'll have our engineers assemble them at once. Fine work as always, Sergeant Sharplate. The entire compound has now been scoured from top to bottom, so I should hope that that's the last we've seen of these explosives. Our troubles with Castrum Meridianum, however, are far from over. Scouts have returned with news of movement on the front. We've been keeping a close eye on that Garlean garrison, and it would seem that the Imperials have finally begun to mobilize. According to the reconnaissance report that came in, the squads seen leaving the Castrum are too few in numbers to effectively take and hold our position. They will likely mount a swift assault and focus on the acquisition of resources. I have, of course, also shared this report with the Crystal Braves. They've decided to take the field to meet this assault head-on. Pray report to Lieutenant Elian and lend your much welcome strength to the counter-offensive. Have you ever seen Moon swing her axe? Stripe, slice, cleave. There's really no stopping her. Isn't it a beauty? A lady merchant who Revenant Soul simply gave it to me. Said she was investing in the future or some such. Now that's an impressive piece of steel. With a squad of soldiers with some magic monstrosity, I shall allow no foe to harm the lovely Moenbryda. Considering the weapon she wields, I don't believe the lady is in need of additional protection. Glad to have you with us, Sirius. As I'm sure Lieutenant Edelstein has explained, the Garleans have deployed a small force from Castrum Meridianum. The main column assembled to the north near Dalamut's Talon, but we've also spied several squads attempting to conceal themselves on the approach to the west. They wish you to rush forth and commit to battle with the main column, leaving the detached force free to raid the plant and pillage supplies. Not much of a strategy, but these are desperate men. Captain Ilbert! Greetings, Scion. I understand the commander bid you and your fellows come lend a hand to the Braves. With such mighty heroes at its disposal, the Fourth should have little trouble contending with aught the Garleans might throw at them. But even you cannot be everywhere at once. The Third was getting restless holed up in Uldar, so I marched them out here to fill any holes in the plan's defenses and add their numbers to your counterattack. The reinforcements are welcome. We have enough soldiers now to divide our own forces and safely engage the enemy far beyond the walls. Aye, it would be best to avoid staging a battle anywhere near this much ceruleum. Let's take this fight to the Garleans. A wise course of action. I shudder to think of the consequences should any of these storage tanks be exposed to fire. If there are no objections, the Scion shall join the fourth and give battle to this main column. You're the third then, Warrior of Light. Your job will be to intercept these squads hiding out in the west and prevent them from reaching the processing plant. When you're ready to proceed, report to Lieutenant Yuyu Hase. His scouts should have a rough idea where the Imperials have concealed themselves by now. A pleasure to be fighting at your side once more, Scion. Our operations invariably succeed when you are around, and victories are wont to pave the road to greater coin. Now, this detached force we've been sent to eliminate has split into smaller squads. The better to conceal themselves within the terrain hereabouts, I imagine. We need to split ourselves up as well to cover more ground and make sure we root out all of these would-be raiders. And seeing as you're an army unto yourself, I have assigned you your own areas to scour clean of enemy soldiers. Aye, this will be a simple search and destroy. We'll rendezvous back here when the task is done. Happy hunting, Scion. We've been spotted! Our position is compromised. To arms! Fine, you volunteered to die. You seem grim, Scion. I take that to mean that between us, more than a few Garleans won't be making it back to the castrum. These Imperials, well, they certainly made us earn our pay. I would be a happy man if I never had to tussle with another of those matchtech horrors. It's time we bid this war-torn land farewell. I will contact the 4th and let Lieutenant Alian know the west is now clear. I would appreciate it if you would do the same when you report to Lieutenant Edelstein. Sergeant Jarplate, what news of the Garleans? The raiding parties are no more then? Excellent. The Amagina engineers will be most relieved to hear that the plant is no longer in immediate danger. Thank you again for your assistance. Okay, I end this episode here. And next time we continue, with Final Fantasy XIV. And until then, I am Mace, and don't get lost.